when to use a big data solution, when to consider big data solution, and what are the challenges in implementing the big data solutions, right? And what would be the big data architecture, and when to not to use the big data solutions, right? So these are the topics that we covered in last class. In today's class, we see more about Hadoop side. We already learned what is the Hadoop, what is the big data, right? Hadoop is a architecture or a platform. In typically, it's a technology which would mitigate your big data challenges. Okay. In one way, we could say as it, which will mitigate the big data challenges. And another way is like to solve all your big data challenges. Okay, like Hadoop would play a very nicely and very important role there. Now, in this class, we'll see that what is Hadoop at all. Okay, like what is this software is about, what are some typical characteristics, and high level when we install the Hadoop platform. So what are the daemons or what are the servers, okay, like that would be running on. Okay, so that is a goal for the coming 1 hour. Okay, like let's see, okay, like how it goes. And if you have any questions on the last week class or even this week class, okay, like please hand over all your questions to the internal faculty there, and they would help you out, okay, like in reaching your questions to me. Okay. We'll see in today's class, we'll see more insights about Hadoop. And we know that Hadoop platform, okay, like has been designed, okay, like to address all our big data challenges or big data problems, right? So what are the principles, what are the basic principles this platform has been built? There are two principles, okay. The first one is called distributed computing storage. So Hadoop has both of these features, or the entire platform is built on these pillars or on these principles. One is called distributed computing, another one is called distributed storage. As the name implies, okay, like distributed computing means the computing will happen in a distributed manner. Distributed storage means it stores the data in a much more distributed manner. Okay. When you say like distributed, the function dedicated to only one processing unit or one system, rather than it is called like a distributed. That means that entire functionality is being distributed to several machines, several processors, or several nodes. Okay, all these are like different words. Okay, like they will be used. Okay, like depending on their context. So nodes, machines, CPUs, okay, processors. I mean, typically they use in the same context. Especially in the Hadoop world, the individual machines are called as a nodes. Okay. The next thing is the entire Hadoop platform is written in Java. The platform is built in the Java language. Probably you might have already learned that what are the advantages of building any application in Java. Okay, it will become hardware independent, operating system independent, right? So you could install your Java application in any of the operating system or in any of the hardware configurations or whatever. Okay, like what are the machines that you are going to run? So that is the reason you could install Hadoop in Linux-based machines, in Windows-based machines, and in Ubuntu-based machines, or even in the Mac machines, or anywhere, whatever the operating system that machine has, you could install Hadoop without having any issues. Also, not only just installation, you would expect the same results, okay, like in all the typical operating systems and hardware platforms. Next one, especially in the Hadoop world, okay, like people would be called it as a cluster. What is a cluster? A cluster is nothing but a group of computers or nodes which are connected together and form a cluster. When you say like multiple computers connected, so what would be the typical size? There are no limitations on the size of the cluster. It can be a 2 node, 3 node, 30 node, 200 node, 1000 node, even 10,000 nodes. So you could add how many number of computers that you want to add into the cluster. There are no limits. So the entire Hadoop platform is flexible so that like you could add multiple nodes without causing any problem or without any downtime or without having any trouble at all. So maybe in the initial phase, okay, like people start with 10 node cluster, and whenever they need more storage or more computing power, they will add some more nodes to the cluster. So they add 5 more nodes, so the 10 node cluster will become 15 nodes. So it has more power now and more storage capacity. If you want to add more storage capacity, people would add more hard drives or more drives to the existing machines. Otherwise, you could add new machine as well. So, but to add more computing power, okay, like typically people would add more computers. Storage, it depends. Okay, like some organizations, they will add more computers, or some organizations, they will expand the existing storage capacity, okay, like by adding more drives, more hard drives, basically. Okay. So that is about the cluster. Next one, uh, entire Hadoop platform is built on a concept. It's called shared nothing architecture. Okay, so we know that Hadoop platform has been installed as part of a clusters. Okay, like a cluster is nothing but a combinations of several computers connected together. But all these computers, they don't share any common thing. They don't share at all. Like even though 50 computers are connected together and form a cluster, but they don't have anything in between, in common, so that like there will be a shared drive or shared component, so that which can be accessed from all these 50 nodes. There won't be anything like that. And even these nodes, um, um, they don't they don't directly communicate with others. So I have a 50 node cluster here, but node 1 will never communicate node 2 by its own. Okay, like, but they're not designed, okay, like to communicate each other and then uh, to complete while completing a job or while complete a task or whatever. Okay, like these nodes will never communicate with one to another. Okay, it's not that node 1 will initiate some any communication and then like talk to the node 2 or node 20 or node 40 like that. Okay, so that is the reason this architecture is called like a shared nothing architecture. Okay, like they don't share anything in common. Okay, is it clear? So these are the main principles. First thing is the entire Hadoop platform is built on two basic principles: distributed computing and distributed storage. Okay. Platform is built on two basic principles. One is called like distributed computing and distributed storage. Okay. The next one is the entire Hadoop platform is written in the Java language, which would the Java language, which would make to install the entire platform in multiple operating systems and also in multiple hardware platforms. Okay? Because you could execute your Java programs in any of the hardware, right? It need not be a typical hardware. Typical, even the same thing even for operating system as well. So especially in the Hadoop world, okay, like people would be calling it as a clusters. A cluster is nothing but a combination of computers which are connected together. Whether it can be connected through LAN cable, through wireless connection, or through direct socket. A cluster. The next one is all these individual nodes in a cluster. Okay, like they don't talk to each other. Okay, like so the entire platform is built on the concept called share nothing architecture, because these individual nodes, they don't share anything in common. Okay. The next one is in the Hadoop platform, the programmers or the developers who are writing programs related to the Hadoop platform, they need not explicitly write any communication, because we all know that Hadoop is distributed, right? Hadoop is completely distributed computing. So it always distributes the computing power to several nodes. So when we heard about this principle, you might be thinking that, oh, how can I write a code and specify that this part of the code you need to execute in the node 3, this part of the code you need to execute in some other node, this part of the code you need to execute in some other node, like that. So Hadoop is designed such a way that a programmer or a developer need not write any code which would specifically run on some particular node. So defaultly, when you write some Hadoop code, so the platform decides where it will be run, in which node this program would be executed. As a programmer or a developer, okay, like I need not specify any code such a way that this code should execute in particular node, like that. So that is the beauty of the Hadoop. Okay, even though it has a distributed computing, but nothing in your code, okay, like specify that related to distributed computing. So unknowingly, okay, like by writing it just like a Hadoop program or Hadoop script, so your code will execute in a distributed manner. The next one is, so we already discussed about the distribution of computing, right? Second one is distribution of the data. So when I'm loading the data, again, I need not specify that how this data would be distributed in the cluster. So data distribution happens seamlessly or without knowingly to the developer. So what you need to do is you need to just call the API, or you need to run some command which will load the data into the Hadoop cluster. You need not specify, oh, the first part of this data, okay, like put it in node 1, the second part of the data, put it in node 3, the third part of the data, you put it in somewhere else. You need not specify anything like that. So you are just saying that I'm loading the data into the cluster. That's it. So then the platform would take care of it where this data would be loaded. Okay, so that is the another beauty of the Hadoop. Okay, next one. So when you load the data into the Hadoop platform, okay, like where this data would be residing on. So this data would be, if you have a 50 node cluster, so when you are loading some data into the Hadoop platform, so where this data would be stored? This data would be stored in any of these nodes of the 50 nodes. It need not be in node 1, node 2, node 3, or node 40, node 50, like that. Okay, like so data would be spread throughout the cluster. It need not be in one node. Okay, like so. I do have some more points on that one. So even though it's not clear, but when you see some of the examples or more details about the data loading, then it will be much more clear. Next one, computation. Okay, like the computation or processing. Okay, like where this will happen is wherever the data is stored. Okay, like so one thing is we know that okay, like when you load the data, okay, the data would be distributed in the across the cluster. Okay, that is fair. But what about the computation? Computation also will be distributed, but computation will happen wherever the data is stored. Suppose, for example, I have a very big text file, probably around 500 gigabytes or 500 megabytes. Let's take a simplest thing, 500 megabytes. Okay, when I load this data into the cluster, so we know that data would be distributed. Okay, like since Hadoop follows the principle called distributed storage. So this 500 megabytes file will be splitted into okay, like several tabs on the node. So computation will always happen, okay, like wherever the data is stored. Suppose this 500 megabytes of file, okay, like which has been splitted into several parts, and each part is stored in one of the nodes. So when you submit a job or when you submit some anything related to the processing job on this 500 megabytes of would be distributed in the cluster. So it will be distributed on the same nodes wherever the data is stored. So that is the first step that it will go. So the data is distributed in the cluster. So whenever there is a need to process the data, okay, like so, even the processing power also distributed, and the processing algorithm or processing method or function will be used the data which is stored locally in the node. So that, of course, we do have several examples. Okay, like maybe in that case it would be much more clear. But here, at this stage, just understand that even the computation power will be happening distributedly in the Hadoop platform. Not only the storage of the data, even the computation also will happen distributedly. There are some other distributed architectures. Okay, like typically what they do is okay, like their processing power would be centralized, and they'll bring the data to the processing. So I do have a very big machine. Okay, like and then wherever the data is there, you could store the data in a distributed manner. But when you are processing, all the data would be bring to the centralized machine. Okay, wherever the centralized processor is there, and then it processes the data, and then it will ignore that, and then it will read the next chunk of data, and then it will process it, and then it will read the next chunk of data, and then it will process it, and then it will finish the job. This is one kind of a typical distributed architecture. But in the Hadoop, exactly, processing power is not centralized. Processing is also distributed. The processing will happen wherever the data is stored. So the data will not be bring to the centralized node. The processing will go to the node wherever the data is stored, and it will complete the processing on the data which is stored locally in that node. Okay. So in short form, Hadoop brings the processing power to the data wherever it is being stored. So that is the principle exactly. Like, and of course, uh, uh, due to that principle only, like Hadoop has become very, very famous, and it has been very much effective as well. Okay. So Hadoop platform will always brings the processing power to the data wherever it is being stored. Okay, that's little bit background about the Hadoop platform. And the next one is we'll see that what are the system requirements and characteristics. Most of the requirements or most of the system characteristics resemblance the same system characteristics of the big data. Okay, so what are the system characteristics that we learned in the last? Typically, even the Hadoop also has this, similar kind of a system characteristics. But here, in this, I would like to explain in more detail. System should be consistent. Okay. Uh, Here the system means the entire Hadoop platform would be consistent always. What does it mean, consistent here? When you have a cluster of 50 nodes, right, all the nodes will be connected together. So all are just like hardware computers, right? And the systems will always tend to fail. Okay. Let me ask this question: like, how long ago that you restart your machine, maybe your laptop or even desktop or something like that? Like, typically people would try to restart it whenever they see some problem, right? And sometimes like blue screens will come up. Okay, if there is any hardware issue, anything problem comes. Sometimes you would see that like drives are not being reachable. There are a lot of issues. You may see several things. These machines um, are tend to fail, I could say, right? So it's not that always 24 by 7, okay, like the machines would be up and running. So we cannot give that guarantee, right? Systems may fail due to whatever may be the reasons. So all these internal failures, suppose say I have a 50 node cluster. There are two machines which have some problem and which have been failed. So when I submit my job, I submit a job to the Hadoop platform and Hadoop is processing my job. Okay, like, and then while processing, these two nodes were failed and the two nodes are not at all responding. So from the platform should be able to transfer the processing task, whatever the task that has been assigned to these failure nodes, so should be able to transfer to some other nodes. So any concurrent operations or any internal failures of the system, okay, like should not cause the results of the job to change. So irrespective of the failures of the machines, failure of the system, okay, like your job should give you the results back. That is one of the um, important characteristics of Hadoop platform. So when you submit a job to the Hadoop platform, even though some of the nodes got failed while processing the job, still Hadoop would complete that job and will give you the results back. So irrespective of whatever may be the failures of the internal systems. So Hadoop has that capability. And the second property is how it will happen. Okay, like we will see that. Okay, like I will go through some more examples. Okay, like how it will store the data, how it will process it, and how um, it will addresses the internal failures of the system. Transferred, okay, like from failover system to the normal running system. Okay, like we'll see that in the coming slides. Okay, but yeah, Hadoop has this kind of a capability. Is the and system or platform? Okay, like you could use anything. Okay, here the system means really what I mean to be is the Hadoop platform. So a Hadoop platform should be scalable. Um, should be scalable. Scalable means like it's always horizontal scalable. Okay, like horizontal scaling that we are talking here. Um, Horizontal scaling means okay, like platform should be able to support to add more nodes to the cluster. Okay, why we need to add more nodes to the platform? Suppose I have a 50 node cluster. Okay. In which scenarios I will end up in adding more nodes to the cluster, right? We need to understand that first. Why we need even the scalability. If you have a 50 node cluster, okay, like so typically Hadoop administrators, what they do is they would try to see how much time, what is the maximum utilization of the cluster resources. If 80% of the cluster resources have been using, okay, like that 80% of the time, then typically, okay, like people would go and then add more nodes to the cluster. By adding more nodes, indirectly, Hadoop platform adding more processing power. Okay, so by adding the load, by adding more nodes to the system, or by increasing load to the system, okay, like should not give you any outright failure at all. If you have a more nodes to the system, so even though you have 2 nodes, 3 nodes, 5 nodes, 10 nodes, so your failure rate, even though it's increasing rapidly, still you would be able to process all your jobs. When you have more nodes, obviously you have more power. Okay, obviously you could uh, cover the more risk of more failure rates. Okay. Also, when you add more nodes to the cluster, okay, like so, how many nodes that you add into the cluster, that much capacity of the cluster would increase. If you make like 50 node to 100 nodes, that means you are increasing, you are doubling up your resources. So obviously your cluster processing power also will be doubled. Okay, like that. In other words, it's not only just adding node to the cluster, but also if any problem comes, if any system got failed, has some failures, hardware failures, software failures, or any kind of a failures, okay, like a drive problem, hardware configuration or encryption problem, whatever may be problems or issues related to the hardware, you must be able to remove the node from the cluster without having any impact. Also should be able to add new nodes to the cluster. Okay, so that's the principle called like easily scalable, should be able to scalable.
Professor Kiran,
Yes.
uh,
Okay.
most of the people had a kind of doubt that let us take the example of your Walmart problem. Okay, so
Okay.
suppose you have around 1,000 shops in the Walmart,
Okay.
and you collect the data from the spot, the source. But
Mm-hmm.
in the diagram, you are showing the clusters. What I understand is whatever data you enter, that goes to the data center node basically, and that resides there. And when the Hadoop processing is coming, you are dealing with those nodes in the data center. Like, am I correct, or you can correct me if I'm wrong by any chance?
Um, small corrections are here. Okay.
Please.
Especially in the Hadoop platform, our data would not store in the centralized manner at all.
Yes, sir. It is in distributed manner. What I'm saying is, suppose some Walmart store number one is there. That is
Mhm.
connected to one node in some data center. Another thing in Chicago downtown might be connected to some other node in the data center. Is it that way, or how does it work? In fact, how it is practically connected totally? Can if you could explain? That will be
Yes.
really helpful for all the students.
Okay. That's very
You
good
can
question.
take time. Next class also you can explain that.
I mean, no, I mean, I think this is, and this time is really appropriate. Okay, like even to answer that.
Okay.
Uh, a cluster may have any number of computers, okay, like starting from 2 nodes, unlimited number of nodes, okay, like 50 or 500
Yes.
or 10 or whatever. So all these nodes, okay, like typically they don't give access to any external systems. Typically, in other words, not all systems really you could connect from external sources. So there is only one node which
That is my question is, suppose I have 1,000 Walmart stores running across United States, some in Chicago, some in New York, some in California and all, and a daily transactions happen, and I want to get the daily summary of all the Walmart stores. If
correct.
you pull down
That's
the data onto the central server, it will be several terabytes and no server can handle that. So that is a limitation. So hence what we do is that goes distributedly. So my query is from exactly the source wherein the data is being entered, that is this 1,000 sources information, how it goes to the cluster. That's my query.
here, I mean, like here we are talking two things exactly. Okay, like one is about the a large volume, collecting all the large volume, and the next one is okay, like processing all this large volume. Okay, so collecting this large volume, uh, all the Walmart stores, okay, like can connect to the Hadoop. Okay, like we will go through that which node that they will be connected. Okay, because still I have not shown any of the this multi-node architecture of the Hadoop. So
Otherwise, Professor, you can postpone this to that time. Absolutely no issue. I don't want you to trouble this at this stage, but at least I would like to give you a kind of doubt many people have in their mind. You can answer that while you are teaching that part.
yeah,
That's
what
not
will
an
happen
issue.
is Hadoop support like having a multiple connections from multiple places. Okay, like so all these Walmart stores can connect to the Hadoop cluster and then
Mhm.
can load the data at the same time, even simultaneously. Okay,
Okay.
so all the data would come to the Hadoop cluster. It supports again. It depends on the name node capacity, how many parallel connections that it would make, and all the stuff. So data would be loaded into the Hadoop cluster. The next one is to process all the high volume of data. Okay, like if you want to run any analytic application using this transactional data, or if you want to build any heuristic search based on this high volume of data. Okay, like so that's internally like Hadoop could process it much more of a distributed manner, and then it can provide the results. Okay, how it will happen is whenever when you are collecting all this data, okay, like so maybe if you have some numbers, maybe that would be much more clear. So if I'm loading 10 terabytes of data, okay, so I have a 50 node cluster, and where each node has only 1 terabyte of maximum storage. So what would happen is if when it's collecting all the 10 terabytes, so the platform is smart enough to identify, oh, node 1 will store only up to 10 terabytes. So it stores the 10 terabytes there. And the second node, really, what will be the capacity? Then it will store that much of information. And then it will go to the third node, it will go to the fourth node, like that. Really, typically, it will not wait until the storage space of node 1 will get filled. So it will follow the distributed algorithm itself. So some component of 10 terabytes will store into node 1, and some component will store into the node 3, and will store to node 4, like that. We have much more detailed levels on that one in the coming slides. Maybe at the time it would be much more clear, even though if it is not clear now. Okay, like so, just wait for some more time, and then it will be clear. Should support a partial failure. Okay, not the entire failure of the systems. Okay, like suppose if I have a 50 node cluster, all the 50 node goes down, definitely Hadoop platform is not going to work in that scenarios. But it has the capability to support a partial failures. Suppose one part of the system, even though even though it's not functioning, or even though it has some internal issues, even if it is not responding. Okay, like so in that cases, okay, like a platform would take care of that and would be able to uh, process all your jobs, and also should able to retrieve the data which is stored in that failed node. Okay. So even if suppose there are multiple nodes, okay, which have been failing gradually, okay, like in a graceful manner. So obviously, like even your system performance, or even if it is a processing power of your jobs, okay, like will slowly, gradually decline a little bit by little bit, okay, like, but it never full halt. Even though there are some partial computers which have been problems and not even responding even in that scenarios as well, okay, like, so it's not a full halt of the system, but it's just like a partial decline of your performance. Okay, next one, I think I already explained this one. System should support data recoverability. Suppose if some multiple systems got failed or it's not responding, uh, the workloads should be automatically transferred, okay, like to the normal functioning units. Also the data, whatever the data is stored in the failure systems, should be automatically recovered. Okay, and we'll see that how it will happen and everything. So if the data is distributed evenly or distributedly in a with common ratio in multiple nodes, if some system goes down, how can we bring this, how can this platform would able to recover that data? Okay, I have some examples on that. Okay, like, so maybe at the time it would be much more clear, but right now, okay, like, just understand that yes, Hadoop platform would able to address that. When some of the systems got failed, okay, like, it will reprocess all the processing jobs which are submitted to the failed systems, also recover the data, okay, which is stored in the failed nodes. Okay, Hadoop platform does both the things. Sometimes what would happen is, okay, like, so in a typical a multi-node cluster, some node um, may, some node may fail sometime. Okay, like, but like, let's say hard drive is not reachable, hard drive is not mountable or something. So it means they will look into that one and they will find out that, oh, this hard drive is really bad, and then they'll fix the issue, and then after that, like, everything looks normal. So what they do is, okay, like, removed from the cluster, but after fixing the issue again, they would able to, okay, like, join back to the cluster, so that it will take some of the load from the platform. Also it would able to store some of the data, okay, like, for the storage needs. Also it would give the data which is stored in the cluster back to the jobs or back to the processing power. Okay, so basically you could remove the nodes very easily from the cluster, and you could also add after fixing the issues. Okay, it's very seamlessly, okay, like, you could add them. Even though you have the 50 nodes, okay, if one node goes down or two node goes down, okay, like, your platform is still functioning. All the jobs you submitted to the platform will be running fine. All the data which is stored in the platform will also be available. Okay, like, even though some nodes goes down, some nodes um, uh, not, even though they are not responding, but still, okay, like, people would be able to run their jobs and get their data, okay, like, without noticing any full failures or any failures of the platform. Okay, again, you, after fixing some issues, again you bring back to the nodes to the cluster. Okay, these are all high-level system characteristics of the Hadoop. Typically, even the big data system characteristics also similar to this. Okay, like, uh, that is the reason Hadoop platform, okay, like, would be best suitable technology or platform to live with. Okay, and then on top of this kernel, okay, like, API or kernel level uh, functions, all your operating system has been installed. So, right, on top of that, your server kernel, okay, you have the Linux operating system. On top of Linux, you have the JVM, it's called like a Java Virtual machines, Java Virtual Machine Environment or JVMs. Typically, any runtime environment of your Java. Okay. This is the same layer where you have your browser and some of the utilities from the Hadoop. Okay, like so, this will directly uses your operating system level, and then it uses internally the kernel API, and then it executes it at this kernel level. You might have remember, like I said, like entire the Hadoop platform as written in the Java. So when you say like a platform, Hadoop platform is nothing but a combination of daemons. A daemon is a typical any operating system process, okay, which will be continuously running. Um, Even though it parent program dies, still daemon program would be running continuously. So that's why it called as a daemon. Okay. So a Hadoop platform is nothing but a combinations of daemons or a combinations of servers. You could use the word server as well. Okay, like but typically in the Linux terminology wise, a daemon is the right word. Okay. So what are these daemons? The one of the important daemon in the Hadoop platform is name. Components, okay, like are nothing but JVMs. They're running Java programs. Okay, so that is the reason they're all uses the JVM stack. They are all use the JVM. I mean, they're all on top of the JVM. Okay, name node is one of the daemon, and secondary name node is one of the daemon. Job tracker is one of the daemon. Okay, task tracker is one of the daemon, and data node is one of the daemon. So until Hadoop 2x architecture, okay, like these are the only 5 daemons which would contribute to your Hadoop platform. So before Hadoop 2x version or Hadoop 2x platform, before this version comes, so these are the only 5 daemons which would be called as a Hadoop platform. So if you start all these 5 daemons in your cluster, that means your platform is ready. Your platform got installed. So that's why these are very important daemons. Okay, like we will learn all the internal things about all these 5 daemons. Okay, like and also we will see more things about that one. As I said, these are the only 5 daemons until the Hadoop 2x version came, and in the 2x, okay, like there are extra daemons which have been added. Okay, like they removed the secondary name node. Okay, like and then they added a high availability for the name node. Okay, like so we will see that one whenever we're talking about Hadoop 2x. But right now, okay, just assume that okay, like when you say like Hadoop platform is nothing but okay, like these are the 5 daemons which would be running. Basically, here my intention is like to show you exactly like where these daemons will be running. Okay, like in terms of the protocol stack. All these daemons would use the JVM capabilities or will run on the JVMs. And JVM internally use the operating system level thing, and then which internally use the server level or kernel level API. So these are very core daemons. Okay, one is called like name node, and secondary name node, or there is a concept called high availability. Okay, like I mean we'll discuss that even in the later stages. Okay, like I don't want to confuse at this stage itself. So one is name node, secondary name node, data node, and then job tracker, and then task tracker. Starting from Hadoop 2x, the functionality of the job tracker has been transferred to called resource manager, and some of the functionality of the job tracker and also the task tracker has combined together, and it's been transferred to new daemon. It's called like a node manager. Okay. So in 2x onwards, Hadoop 2x onwards, there won't be any job tracker and there won't be any task tracker. So you will see the resource manager and node manager. Okay, we'll see that functionalities of each daemon, what it does, what it stores, where it will run, and why it's important. Okay. We saw that what are the demons, but definitely we'll go deeper dive into the demons. Okay, before going into the demons, okay, let's talk something about what is the file system that Hadoop has been built on. There is a next one is okay, we'll see more insights about the Hadoop. Okay, uh, the entire Hadoop, the backbone of entire Hadoop is called like a HDFS. HDFS stands for Hadoop Distributed File System. Okay. Uh, Enter this platform is a file-based system, I could say. Okay, in Hadoop platform, you would store the data, enter the data in terms of files and directories. How your um, let me ask this question: how your Windows platform has all the data? I mean, how the Windows platform will store all your data? I could say like, yes, Windows platform also stores all your data in terms of files and directories. That's it, right? If you see entire your hard drive of your computer, what you would see, what you would observe there? Just files and directories. Are there anything else? Right? It's the same thing. So Windows is typically, any of you name what is the file system used in Windows? Do you know what is the file system used in Windows? Similarly, any operating system, okay, like it has its own file system. Even Linux has its own file system. Windows has its own file system. You could Google it even later on. NFS, okay, NTFS, correct. NTFS is the right one. So Windows operating system is based on NTFS file system. So what is this file system is about? What is file system? I know it's related to your operating system principles, okay, but a file system is nothing but a catalog how your data is stored into. It will find out that whenever you ask for some particular file, so this file system will give you exactly in which location of the disk this file is belongs to. So it will create a catalog. First, entire the storage device will be divided in terms of sectors and tracks, and then it will create a catalog. And whenever you stored as a particular files and directories, then it will try to put it to the catalog. Oh, file system, file name one, okay, which is stored in 56 sector, like that. So whenever you requested some file, typically it will go through that. It will get the location from the catalog, and then it will fetch you the data of that file. That's what it does. All this entire processing, like dividing in terms of sectors, tracks, okay, creating a catalog, all these things is uh, typically happen in a process called formatting. Uh, I'm pretty sure most of you may never heard about this word formatting, because nowadays all these disks like hard disk or your floppy drive, okay, all these devices are already formatted to particular file system. Okay. Um, in olden days, okay, Olden days in the sense like maybe 15 years back, or even not even, yeah, 20 years back, or maybe even 15 years back. Not 15 to 20, in between 15 to 20 years. Okay. People used to carry a floppy disks. So whenever you buy a floppy disk, the first step they need to do is format the disk. First step, okay, whenever you buy a floppy disk is nothing but to look like a CD. Okay, it's a old version of the CDs. Okay, which has very less capacity, probably 32 MB. Okay, like 16 MB like that. The first step is you format the disk. So whenever you buy a floppy drive, okay, like so you need to format the disk. So what is this format step will do? It will divide the storage, the entire storage disk into in terms of sectors and tracks like that. And then after that, it will allow you to store the data into that. So the first step is called formatting. And then after some time, okay, like these companies, they sell pre-formatted floppy disks. So then you need not format it. It's already formatted to use it in Windows operating system. Okay. So by that time, I think it's already Windows is very, very famous and most of the people are using Windows. Okay. Like, so they used to pre-format the disk so that you need not format it again. So it's already pre-formatted. Then after that, I think no one does the format unless they buy any of the new hard disks. Okay, like even nowadays, even hard disks are also pre-formatted. Okay, like so. Typically, for any computers, okay, like if you want to add a new partition or if you want to install a new operating system, so typically you divide your hard disk into two parts. One part is for Windows, one part is for Linux operating system or any other operating system that you want to install. So the first step you do is format the disk as per the operating system. That is the first step that you do. So any file system, before you start any other file system, you require the formatting. So even for HDFS, format is required. Okay. Uh, but of course, that will be that will be before you install any of the Hadoop platform. Okay, like you install any of the daemons or any of the things available in the Hadoop platform. The first step is before you start any of the daemons. Okay, like you need to format the file system. Okay, it does. I mean, it has all the steps. Okay, like when we, I can go through all the steps whenever we are installing our Hadoop cluster. Okay, like but any file system formatting is a necessity step. So next one, what is this HDFS? HDFS is a file system that entire Hadoop platform is built on. Okay, like HDFS stands for Hadoop Distributed File System. Hadoop is a Hadoop, everybody knows. So this entire file system is distributed. This file system is not in one node or it's not related to one node or one machine. So this file system is a distributed file system. So, okay, anyway, when we go through some of the examples, I think it would be much more clear. Okay, like some of the characteristics of this file system. Um, what is the motivation to have it our HDFS? Um, before even Hadoop is becoming open source, the entire Hadoop platform is inspired based on the Google file system, or even the entire processing of the Hadoop system has been inspired from the Google MapReduce concepts. So it's built based on Google file system. Of course, Google file system is also a distributed way. Okay, like but that will be on the Google platform. So unless you work in Google, I don't think you have access to the Google file system. Okay, and nowadays they become even one version of the Google file system is open source. So if you use Google Cloud, one of the file system that you may also use is Google file system. But anyway, um, this HDFS provides redundant storage of, remember the word, redundant storage of a massive data. So why it's called redundant? Because HDFS typically it just like provides an interface. So it will allow you to store the copies of the data. So if you have a one copy in one system, another copy in another system, okay, like a third copy in third system, like that. It will allow you, okay, like to store copies of the same information in multiple nodes. Okay. Of course, enter the platform, okay, like for installation, you could use uh, very much economic or even unreliable computers because the Hadoop addresses the failures of the system. So your systems may not be much more sophisticated, reliable computers at all. So it can be unreliable or even uh, off-shelf servers. It need not be a highly sophisticated corporate level reliable computers at all. Okay. Um, so built on top of any of the existing file system. So to install Hadoop or even HDFS, you require an operating system. So when you require an operating system itself, it has its own file system. For example, I think one of your colleges has responded back, NTFS is the file system used in Windows, or FAT32. FAT32 is also used in Windows. Okay, like so depending on whatever the version of that one or something like that. NTFS or even FAT32. So ext3, ext4 are the very commonly used file system in the Linux-based computers. Basically, any Linux-based operating system, okay, either it can be ext3 or ext4 based file systems. And even XFS as well. Okay, like XFS is also another one. Okay, like but not commonly used. But ext4 is very very commonly used, and ext3 is afterwards, and XFS is also like you could observe some of the Linux-based operating systems are formatted by formatted or even the file system is based on XFS. There are different kind of a file systems. Okay, like their version different because how it will divide in terms of sectors and tracks and like that. Okay, like in what way that it will be divided and all that stuff. Next one is um, HDFS allows you to distribute data across the nodes even at the time of loading. It's not that first you load all the data to some centralized node and then you distribute to several nodes. It will not happen like that. At the time of loading itself, okay, like the data would be distributed across the different nodes or across the cluster or across several nodes. So how it will load distributorly? Okay, do you have the so what it does is whenever you are loading the data into the HDFS, first it will try to split the file. So whatever may be the size of the file, it will try to split the file in terms of the blocks. So any file, if you are storing that file into HDFS, the file would be splitted among several blocks and each block would be copied over to several nodes. First thing is a file will be divided in terms of the blocks and then the blocks will be copied or blocks will be, copied is the right word. Blocks would be copied over to the individual nodes. The entire file will not be moved into the individual nodes. The entire file will be divided in terms of the blocks and each block would be copied over to the individual nodes. So while loading itself, suppose if you are trying to load 1 gigabytes of file. So at the time of loading itself, this 1 gigabyte file will be divided in terms of several blocks and each block would be stored in one of the nodes. So that's how it's distributed. So what is the atomic granular level of the data that will be stored in HDFS? It's called like a block. So what is the size of the block? I do have the slide as well, but anyway, since we're discussing on the topic, the default size of the block is 64 megabytes. And another beauty of the entire Hadoop platform is everything in Hadoop is customizable. It has its default values, but of course it will allow you to customize as per your needs. So 64 megabytes is the default block size in Hadoop cluster, but you could customize into, you could make into 128 megabytes or even 256 megabytes as well. Most of the industry, several clients, they use 128 gigabytes as, 128 megabytes as their block size, okay, like in cluster. We will see that what is the advantages for having 64 megabytes versus 128 megabytes, but this is too early, really. I don't think you can understand even if I try to explain it, but in the coming classes, you will understand that, okay. 64 megabytes is the default block size that Hadoop platform has support into. 64 megabytes, not a small storage. Entire Bhagavad Gita will go into the 64 megabytes. Okay, like it's that much big, right? 64 megabytes. Okay, like so, not a small thing. Also, HDFS provides a very standard storage layout structure. Okay, like so that the platform would able to run an effective MapReduce programming or effective MapReduce processing. Okay, we'll see that what is this MapReduce processing. Okay, like how this HDFS storage layout would help to run your MapReduce programs. Okay, whenever we explain about MapReduce, okay, like we will discuss more on that. But right now, okay, like just assume that HDFS will allow you to run efficient MapReduce processing. Next one, we'll see about what are the assumptions of HDFS. Okay, we know what is HDFS is about. HDFS is a file system typically used in the Hadoop, which stands for Hadoop Distributed File System. So one of the assumption is that it will, Hadoop is, the entire platform is really designed, okay, like to store huge files or at least a modest a number of huge files. Okay. That doesn't mean that like a Hadoop will not able to store the small files. Even it will store the small files. But when you see the effective use, okay, like but when you store huge files, then Hadoop would perform very much better than storing a small number of files or small files. Another assumption is that like wherever, in whatever the situations where you would see high failure rates of many components, okay, like then obviously that what the HDFS is assumes for. HDFS always assumes that like, okay, some components will fail always. Okay, like that is the default assumption that it has. Even though maybe in the reality, okay, like not always that systems would fail, but that is what the assumption that HDFS has for. And the third one, HDFS will run effectively or will run much more effectively when you're storing files of type write once. So most of the cases, some of the data like you will write only once, but after that you never, or maybe you have very less opportunities where you will go and update the data. So in most of the cases, you will write only once, but read so many times. Okay, that kind of a that is the kind of a assumption that HDFS is built for. So, in other words, Hadoop is best suitable if you want to store write once files. Okay, again, I'm saying that it's the best suitable. Okay. Um, Once the data is landed in the Hadoop, you cannot update the data, or you cannot update a part of the data. So once the data is landed on the Hadoop side, so um, for example, let's say I'm all storing student ID and names. Okay, ID and name, ID and name, ID and name, like that. I collected all the students in JNTU Kakinada. Okay, like so. Then I collected all the data, and then I stored this data into the Hadoop cluster. After storing that, somehow there is a typo in one of the student name. Okay, like the Kiran is misspelled. So I would like to correct this word. In that kind of a scenarios, Hadoop is not the Hadoop will not give you the best performance. Okay, Hadoop is not the best suitable for kind of a cell updates or in partial data updates. Okay, it has the methods. Okay, like how to update even the cell level, even at the column level, even at the small level thing. But it's not efficient way of updating the data because the entire platform itself will not address that. But once you write all the data, suppose say like you do have a centralized system available in the JNTU where all the updates are happening and like that, and then the data would be okay like transferred to warehouse, okay like wherever it is in maybe JNTU Hyderabad, where they will consolidate all this individual JNTU's data, and then maybe they consolidate it there. So once it goes to the JNTU main office, typically there won't be any updates. So it's already be updates will happen only at the localized. Okay, like but once it goes to the warehouse, typically there won't be much more updates. There may be some updates as well, but not many. Okay, even though there is an update, they will say that like okay, this is the student ID number 123. Okay, the previous name was misspelled, and now the name is Kiran. Okay, now the spelling is K-I-R-A-N like that. Okay. So they will send the transaction and they'll keep both the transaction and they will say that like the latest transaction is the valid one, like that. So they try to append the data, okay, like rather than updating the data. They try to append whatever the newly data is available, but they don't try to update the existing one. So for that kind of a, that is the assumption, okay, like where this HDFS has been built. And another assumption is okay, like the HDFS, in other words, HDFS is best suitable to have it large streaming reads, large streaming reads. So you have more number of reads, or there are so many applications which would access this data. Maybe one or two applications would write into the data. So you have all the files are write ones and read many. So that kind of a thing, okay, like so HDFS is best suitable, and that is the principle that HDFS has been built on. And not like random access. Random access means it's not that like a particular cell level data that I want to. So that is called like random access. I do have a very large volume of data, but whereas I'm interested in only a particular a column value or a particular cell value, okay, like in the very large data set. So that's called like random access. So HDFS is not suitable for the random access. I mean, it's not that random access will not happen, okay, like, but it happens using the HDFS, but it will not give you the better performance. The HDFS is not meant for, okay, to provide a random access of the data. So the situations wherever you required to sustain high throughput rather than over low latency. High throughput. What is throughput? The rate how much data that you are able to consume, how much data that you are able to store the data is called like a throughput. So wherever you would end up in storing very large amounts of data, typically HDFS will be idea. But whereas HDFS very low latency retrieval of the data. If you want, latency is the time, okay, like how much time that you require, okay, to access some particular data is called like a latency. Low latency, I'm expecting a very low latency. I want to access some student 1 to 3 record. How soon that I would get that record back from the storage? That's called like a latency. So if I'm expecting, I'm expecting a response in a millisecond or even microsecond. So very low latency. Obviously, HDFS is the efficient way, okay, like to handle your low latency needs. But whereas I want to store very large amount of data in less time, HDFS is suitable for that. You could store terabytes of data in just seconds, hardly minutes. Even though you have 4 terabytes, or maybe you might have seen like how much time that Windows would take to copy large files. Maybe you might have attempted, and then like it will keep on copying, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, like that. But in Hadoop, especially in HDFS, even though it has terabytes, okay, like you could copy the data very less time. So this entire file system is designed, okay, like to sustain the high throughput and definitely not the cases where you would expect the low latency. Okay. Next, we'll see that what are the features of HDFS. So HDFS, I think we already covered this one. HDFS operates on top of file system is called like operating system level file system. Okay, like so whether it can be FAT32, NTFS, ext3, ext4, whatever maybe your operating system level file system. On top of that, this HDFS will be built. So it will be operates on top of your existing file system. And all the data in HDFS, of course, data would be stored in terms of the files. So all the files or data in your HDFS will be stored in terms of blocks. A block is the lower grain level where the data would be stored in HDFS. Okay. Typically, in any of the file system, so there may be a called block size. Okay, like even FAT32 has a block size, even ext3, ext4 will also have a block size. So whenever you are formatting, at the time of formatting step, so you will end up in giving what is the block size. Okay, like normally people they won't change this block size parameters. They will go with the default things wherever it is. But default block size in HDFS is 64 megabytes. And the next one, a next concept called replication. So the HDFS provides the data reliability, okay, like by applying the principle called replication. Replication, name indicates, right? Replicates. That means copy. Replication is nothing but copying. So inside, whenever you are storing the data in HDFS, so what it does is it stores the file is in terms of the blocks, and each block is replicated across 3 or more data nodes. So the default replication factor in Hadoop platform is 3. So whenever you are loading data into the Hadoop, it will make sure that there are at least 3 copies of the block would exist in cluster. So in other words, if I want to store 100 megabytes file into the Hadoop, so what would be the storage cost in HDFS? 3 times of the file size. So in the Hadoop, typically it requires 3 times of 100 MB. So which would be 300 megabytes of space is needed in Hadoop or HDFS. People would use both the words. Of course, in the Hadoop, where your data would be stored? In HDFS only. So HDFS is nothing but it's entire the file system where your data is stored into. So people would say Hadoop and HDFS interchangeably. Okay, like don't confuse it, but both are same. So wherever your data is in HDFS. So in Hadoop, where your data would be stored? Your data would be stored in HDFS. So what would happen if you don't have 3 nodes at all? What would happen if I have only 1 node in my cluster? What would happen if I have 2 nodes in my system? So obviously it cannot be uh, uh, satisfy the replication factor as 3. If you have only 1 node, it stores only 1 copy. If you have only 2 nodes, it stores only the 2 copies. So it cannot satisfy the replication factor, default replication factor, and then it will what do you call it? It will send out a warning message by saying that this number of blocks are under replicated. Again, Hadoop is very, very beautiful. It allows to customization of any parameter inside the cluster or inside the platform. So you could change the default replication from 3 to 2 if you have only 2 nodes. Then it will not give you even that warning. It need not be even 3. Sometimes people would increase the replication factor to more than 3. People would say 5, 8. We'll see some of the scenarios where it will increase the performance if we increase the replication factor. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is too early. Okay, but definitely I will cover that in the coming classes. So here is split it in terms of the blocks, and each block will be stored in Hadoop system or in HDFS. While storing each block, HDFS maintains the replication factor as 3, and it will keep 3 copies of the block, and it stores all these copies in different nodes in a cluster. Okay. Next one. So earlier we talked about some of the daemons, right? Some of the daemons in the Hadoop. So we'll see that each daemon a little bit more detail. The first one is called like name node. I don't know. I put title as HDFS file storage. I could say like name node. Name node, just clearly observe the word. It has name and then node. Node is simple because any system in a cluster is called like a node. Okay. Why it's named it as a name node? Okay. As a, here, as the name indicates, this name node will store all the metadata, and this metadata include the file names. So that is the reason, okay, like it's been named as a name node because it stores file names, directory names, locations, location of the data nodes or location of the blocks. We know that each file will be divided in terms of the blocks, right? So it stores the file name, it stores the directory name as well, okay? And it stores how many blocks this file has and where are these files, sorry, where are these blocks have been stored. Also, where are the first copies of this block has been stored? Where are the second copy of this block has been stored? Where are the third copy of this block has been stored? So where this replicas? It's called replica, right? It's called copying or replica. Typically in the Hadoop jargon, people would call it the replicas. They don't use the word copies, but they will use the word replicas. So where are these replicas have been stored? In which nodes these replicas have been stored? Also, what are the permissions of this file? Who is the owner of this file? And all this information will be stored in the name node. So initially we learned about the HDFS, what this HDFS is about and everything. Next we are slowly coming on where this information will be stored. So name node is a daemon. We'll come back on that. So the name node will store all the metadata. This metadata indicates first thing you need to remember is file name. That's why it's been named it as a name node because it stores the file names and location of data nodes, location of the blocks, how many blocks this file has, who is the owner of the file, who are the groups that should be allowed to access this data, and where are the location of the replicas. So this information will be stored in the name node. Okay, we know that this information is stored in the name node, but where it will be stored? So all this information is stored in the RAM, which is allocated for this daemon for faster lookup. So whenever you start this daemon, okay, like you start this daemon by allocating a particular memory. Okay, so it will be in the memory. All this information will be available in the memory. So whenever you start a name node daemon, so you could allocate that 8 GB allocated for this daemon. Okay, so all this metadata will be stored in the memory of the name node. So since all this metadata is stored in the memory of the name node, memory has some limitations, right? Each system cannot have unexpected. It has 8 gig memory, 16 gig, 64 gig, 128, 256, but it has its limit. So that's why name node has some limitations, how much metadata that it can be stored. So Hadoop administrators typically, okay, like they would be keep an eye on how much memory of name node has been used. Okay, like how much more memory that it can be, how much more metadata that it can be stored further, and if it requires more memory, and then they will try to allocate it. Even though system has 64 gigabytes of memory, they don't allocate all the 64 to the name node. Okay, like they will start with something like 8 gig memory or 16 gig memory, and then they'll slowly they keep on increasing to the name node memory. Okay. Very important and very key component of HDFS. Okay, so why it's very important? Because all the metadata about the cluster will be stored in the memory of the name node. So if the name node is down due to some reason, if name node got failed, okay, like will make the entire cluster is non-available. So that is the reason name node is very important. Okay, I would pause here, and this is all about the name node. And in the next class, we'll more about the rest of the daemons, okay, like name node, data node, and everything. Again, the next class I will start with the name node from name node onwards. Okay, we'll learn our journey. Okay, like or anything, please